Gopi Janavalabha Girivarada Gopi Janavalabha Girivarada Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranja Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranja Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Sanjavihar Jaya Madhava Sanjavihar Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradha Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradha Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranja Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranja Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranja Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranja Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Sanjavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shiva. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Shri Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Gantara Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Chaitanya Thakur permanently. Got it. You switch on the lights, please. So we're reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, chapter entitled New Jagannath Puri. Prabhupada had decided to ask Upendra to come and live with him as his personal servant. Prabhupada's former servant, Ranchor, had recently left his position. Although supposedly a brahmachari, he had never been a serious brahmachari. He had even seduced one of the young women devotees in New York. Prabhupada had found out and had asked the girl why she had indulged in sex with Ranchor if she wasn't planning to marry him. Prabhupada's why had so disarmed the girl that she had been unable to answer. Prabhupada had admonished her, "You girls should not make yourselves so cheap," and had given Ranchor another chance. But Ranchor never became serious. After playing the drums during the big kirtan at the Avalon Ballroom, Ranchor had become fascinated with the dance hall. He would sneak out from his service, lie to Prabhupada about his absence, and go looking for girls at the Avalon. One day he never returned. As one of the devotees reported to Prabhupada, he just disappeared into the strobe lights. Ranchor did come back once to ask Prabhupada for money so that he could return to his home in New York. Upendra, despite his weaknesses, was spontaneously attracted to Prabhupada and liked to be with him whenever he could. Sometimes Upendra would go up to the apartment with one or two other devotees and just sit in front of Prabhupada, as Prabhupada sat on the thin pillow behind his low desk. Sometimes Prabhupada would continue reading or writing, and Upendra would sit and bask in his presence, simply watching him work. After 10 minutes or so, Prabhupada would look up and say, "All right, that is enough," and the boys would bow and leave. Upendra would also go and see Prabhupada taking his lunch, and Prabhupada would take some rice and vegetables from his plate, put them on a chapati, and offer them to Upendra. Although the prasadam was similar to the prasadam the devotees ate downstairs, Upendra thought that it tasted much better. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sarvasasratipiyesha Sarvadakasatpala Sarvasiddhantara Nadya Sarvalaikakatripala. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, a singular food of all the Vedas, rich mine and the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Shrimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalitranto Tata Ditya Shri Krishna Parvatita. O light bearer of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master of Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali, you are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Bhataya Premabhashaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishna Namostame. I bow down to you who is supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone for your Shri Krishna himself. Marekabando Matsangin Maguru Mamahadana Manisarkamat Bhagya Madanandana Mostute. Companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu Sadhutadayin, Adina Shashtutakara, Anamajgadachin Mam Prendaritandi Yospara. I bestow saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalted and most fallen. Please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Kantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So today we are reading from Kantara Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30. It's a new beginning of a new chapter. Chapter entitled The Activities of the Prachetas. Text number 1. Vidura Uvacha Ye Tvaya Bihita Brahman Sutaf Prachini Barhishaha Te Rudragitena Harim Siddhim Apu Pratoshyakam. Vidura Uvacha Ye Tvaya Bihita Brahman Sutaf Prachini Barhishaha Te Rudragitena Harim Siddhim Apu Pratoshyakam. Vidura Uvacha Ye Tvaya Bihita Brahman Sutaf Prachini Barhishaha Te Rudragitena Harim Siddhim Apu Pratoshyakam. Word for word, please repeat. Vidura Uvacha. Vidura said, Yea, those who, Tvaya, by you, Abhita, were spoken about. Brahman, O Brahmana, Suta, sons, Prachinibarhisha, of King Prachinibarhi, Te, all of them, Rudragitena, by the song composed by Lord Shiva, Harim, the Lord, Siddhim, success, Apu, achieved, Pratosha, having satisfied, Kam, what? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O Brahmana, you formerly spoke about the sons of Prachini Barhi and informed me that they satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting a song composed by Lord Shiva. What did they achieve in this way? Purport. In the beginning, Maitreya Rishi narrated the activities of the sons of Prachini Barhi. These sons went beside a great lake, which was like an ocean, and fortunately, finding Lord Shiva, they learned how to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting the songs composed by Lord Shiva. Now, their father's attachment for fruitive activities was disapproved by Narada, who therefore kindly instructed Prachinibarhi by telling him the allegorical story of Puranjana. Now Vidura again wanted to hear about Prachinibarhi's sons, and he was especially inquisitive to know what they achieved by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here the words Siddhim Apu, or achieve perfection, are very important. Lord Shiva says in Lord Krishna, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. Out of many millions of people, one may be interested in learning how to attain success in spiritual matters. The supreme success is mentioned also in Bhagavad Gita 8:15. Mam upetya punarjanma dukhalayam ashashvatam natnivanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gataha. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. And what is the highest perfection? That is also explained in that verse. The highest perfection is to return home back to Godhead, so that one will not have to return to this material world and transmigrate from one body to another in the dream of material existence. By the grace of Lord Shiva, the Prachetas actually attained perfection and returned home back to Godhead. After enjoying material facilities to the highest extent, Maitreya will now narrate that to Vidura. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karochi Vachalam Bhangun Lagaite Gurim Yakripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It is very important to note in this verse and purport how the Prachetas, they attained perfection, the perfection of life, by singing the songs composed by Lord Shiva. They did not compose or concoct prayers on their own. They took shelter of actually one of the Mahajans. And in this way, by following the Mahajan, namely Lord Shiva, then they attain perfection. By the Mahajans, who are the authorities in the science of bhakti, know how to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They know how to invoke the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 12 Mahajans. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu, Kapilo Komara Kapilo Manu, Pralado Janako Bhishmo, Valir Vaya Sikirvayam. So we have Lord Brahma, Swayambhu, Narada Muni, the Lord Shiva, then the 4 Kumaras, Kapila Dev, Swayambhuva Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, Bhishma Dev, Bali Maharaj, and Shukadev Goswami. These are the 12 Mahajans which are mentioned in Shastra, in the Bhagavatam. So this is the way of perfection. Mahajano Yenagata Sapanta. That to follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. The Mahajans are all pure devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As I mentioned, they know the science of bhakti and how to invoke the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead so they can become qualified to go back to the spiritual world. So we hear in this verse, yes, that there's out of these Mahajans, that specifically Narada Muni and Lord Shiva stand out. And of course, Shukadev Goswami. These three stand out amongst the rest. So Narada Muni, his body is purely transcendental, is purely spiritual. He has a spiritual body. It's not made of the material elements. Even though he was so-called born of Lord Brahma, actually he was born from the intelligence of Lord Brahma through deliberation. And Narada Muni, his sole purpose of existence is to preach the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's to travel all over the universe, both spiritual and material worlds, and deliver. Obviously, he doesn't deliver anyone in the spiritual world, but in the material world, he travels and preaches and delivers so many conditioned souls. In fact, Narada Muni is the spiritual master of Prahlad Maharaj, who is also one of the Mahajans mentioned in the Bhagavatam. And he's the grand disciple of Shukadev Goswami. And what to speak of the spiritual master of Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sorry, can you tell? So, Srila Vyasadeva, actually Srila Prabhupada explains in the purports in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Vyasadeva didn't need to accept a spiritual master. The incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead don't have to accept a spiritual master, but they do so out of example. They do so to show a good example, to show that it is actually Krishna's system to accept a guru. Even Lord Krishna himself, Swayam Bhagavan, when he appeared in this material world, accepted a spiritual master, namely Sandipani Muni, just to show by example. So, Narada Muni, a very special personality, just travels around the universe, delivering conditioned souls and sending them back to the spiritual world. There are so many examples of Narada Muni in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how he preaches and delivers conditioned souls. We're just hearing one, namely Prachinabarhi. And then there's Lord Shiva, who is in a category of his own. He is neither Jiva Tattva nor Vishnu Tattva. You know that Lord Shiva, he is so renounced. He smears his body with ashes from the crematorium. It's interesting to note how Lord Shiva is called, his name suggests that he is all auspicious. That's what Shiva means. But yet he smears his body with ashes, he wears a garland of skulls. And so it's mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami that the skulls that Lord Shiva wears around his neck are actually the skulls of departed Vaishnavas. So even the garland of skulls that Lord Shiva wears is auspicious. And of course, Shukadev Goswami also stands out as a exceptional personality. Shukadev Goswami was such a personality that he was given the seat of honor uh, to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit 7 days before, 7 days continuously up to Parikshit Maharaj's departure from this world. And it is very important to note here that Shukadev Goswami was speaking not only in the presence of his guru, Vyasadeva, but also in the presence of his grand guru, Narada Muni. It is the proper etiquette that, one not speak, given the seat of honor in the presence of their guru. But yet, Shukadev Goswami was such a personality that even in the presence of his guru, namely Srila Vyasadeva and Narada Muni, was he given the seat of honor to speak to Maharaj Parikshit 7 days before his departure. So, by following these personalities, by repeating their words, one attains perfection. But by repeating their words carry potency. We have these 12 Mahajans which are mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but we have our modern day Mahajans as well. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and of course our Srila Prabhupada. These are authorities in the science of bhakti. And yesterday, I had an amazing experience about repeating the words of the Mahajans. So yesterday at Auckland University, at Grafton campus, I was distributing prasad. And I took all the prasad out. I started unloading the van and setting up the table to put the prasad on. And this young boy from Ethiopia just came and started talking to me, asking me what I was doing, and he asked, so what do you do for work? I told him I'm a monk, and he was like really blown away. You're a monk? And he said, look, I don't want to hold you up, I said, no, maybe you can give me a hand getting things out of the van and helping me set up. He's like, yeah, sure, I'd be more than happy to. So we were talking, and I said to him, that I just, quoted what I had heard from Srila Prabhupada, that, we're all parts and parcels of the Supreme, of God, and if we see each other as parts and parcels, that we won't exploit each other, parts and parcels of God, then we won't exploit each other, and we after the conversation finished, we exchanged numbers, and I got a message from him about an hour later. And I'll just read that message. He said, I was wondering about your passion and dedication for living such a strict life for the benefit of others. The words click in my mind. Humans are a part and parcel of God. They are not for exploiting. How wonderful. It will stay in my heart for a long time. Pretty amazing, huh? And that's just from repeating what I've heard in the Shastra, from Srila Prabhupada. So these words from the Mahajans, they carry potency. They have the potency to pierce the heart. They have the potency to transform consciousness. So this is very, very important. One cannot attain perfection without following one of the Mahajans, a Shuddha Bhakta, a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. So, so yeah, this is the lesson we can take away from this chapter, or this lila in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that following in the footsteps of the Mahajans is the way of perfection. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. Okay, I'll stop there and ask if there's any questions or comments. Yes.
I have a question just about relating to other Vaishnavas. Or you can become familiar, go to the temple, outreach centers, in our situation. How can we remain vigilant, not become familiar, so that we act in the proper way? We remain, we maintain Vaishnava dealings, proper Vaishnava dealings. How can we keep that vigilance in the forefront of our conversation?
So it's it's important. As the saying goes, familiarity breeds contempt. And so you're asking how can we refrain from becoming familiar? How can we stop becoming familiar with the devotees that we're associating with? Well, I would say by serving them. When serving the devotees and receiving their mercy and blessings, then we'll get the realization, of their greatness. Actually, as we're hearing in today's purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse from Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati sitaye, yatatam abhisidanam kaschimam vaditattvadaha. Out of thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and all those who endeavor for perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So the Vaishnavas, they are endeavoring to know Krishna in truth. Very, very rare personalities. So, and it is a great disaster actually to become familiar, because with familiarity, offenses are committed. And that can be a huge stumbling block on the path of bhakti. So in order to stop ourselves from becoming familiar, we have to familiar with the devotees. Yes, always remember that we are their servant. That's why we call the other devotees Prabhu. It means master. I wonder how many of us actually meditate on that. Sometimes we even say, even in the mood of chastisement, "What are you doing, Prabhu?" It's like, what does that mean? You're chastising your master. So it's very important to be conscious of what we are doing, what we are saying. So it's it's important to remember our position as Gopipata Padakamali, or Dasa Dasa Nadas. We are the servant of the servant of the servant. In that way, we won't become familiar. Actually, this is one thing that my spiritual master is very expert in, making sure his disciples don't become familiar with him. If he feels that there is some familiarity. He starts pushing away. He starts, chastising, making sure, like cutting down any sort of false ego that might be there. He's very expert at that because he knows the danger in the disciple becoming familiar with the spiritual master. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, such a wonderful beginning of this chapter, how these activities of Prachin version plot this chapter. Yeah, you started, it is very, very important to understand that Mahajanas, we need to follow the Mahajanas.
Mm-hmm.
Because by serving the Mahajanas only we can achieve our ultimate goal of life. If we refer the text 16 of Canto 1, Chapter 2, Shushrusha Sadhayanascha Vasudeva Katarucha
Mm-hmm.
Sammat Shevaya Vipra Purna Tirtha Nishevana. So that is the way. By serving the great rishis or great followers or spiritual master, as well as hearing the messages of Vasudeva through him, is the perfect way of achieving the goal of life. And we can see that these Prachetas, Prachin Varishat, all sons, they went under severe austerity under the water for
Mm-hmm.
thousands of years. So they have become pakka in their austerities and through their spiritual master, Lord Shiva. So this shows that we must follow the disciplic succession if we want to achieve our ultimate goal of life. So that is the lesson started with this text, and it's very, very important to stick to this because, as it is said, Manushyanam Shastreshu Kashit Jajati Siddhaya.
Mm-hmm.
Only after millions of births, only one may be interested in learning how to attain the success in spiritual matters. So this shows the importance to follow the disciplic succession. As you mentioned about the incidents with your Guru Maharaj, that he never become much familiar with the spiritual master so that our ego doesn't come up in between. Is very, very important to understand why this chastisement of spiritual master is so important in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. That is the beginning of the chapter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's okay.
I have a question. You were talking about familiarity and creating content.
Hare Krishna, something's happened to the volume. I can't hear.
Oh,
You are
okay.
muted. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear.
Um, someone might say something that's a bit critical of another devotee, and I'm trying to figure out in those situations how do we protect ourselves, from that mentality and not be affected. Do you have any insights on that?
So sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Because we live in a community and there's so many devotees, sometimes maybe someone might share something that is a bit critical of other devotees, and I'm trying to figure out
Right.
how to deal with that so it doesn't affect me and my vision of devotees, because of course I don't want to have an offensive mentality towards anyone. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just wondering if you have any insights on how to protect ourselves from taking on, other people's views, or I don't know.
Yes, even though we live in a society of very special personalities, devotees, still we should be very careful about um, the type, the association, that we can choose our association. So, yeah, we should not tolerate criticism of other devotees. You know, this is very important. This will be a great stumbling block for our advancement. So if we know that some devotees are critical, and it's good to avoid their association, or you can go, if you're not in a position yourself, you can go to their senior if they have a mentor, and you can explain to that person that, you know, such and such is being critical. Maybe it's not such a good mentality. Maybe they should try to change their state of mind, their consciousness, like this. So not just to completely avoid the person, but actually be proactive to help that person, you know, overcome that mentality. But yes, as devotees, we should be very careful. If we want to make advancements, you know, we should avoid hearing any criticism, and what to speak of becoming critical ourselves. Because no doubt, if we are always hearing criticism of other devotees, it's only a matter of time before we become critical ourselves. You know, and it's a really horrible state of consciousness to be in, like looking for faults in others. As we know, the famous example of Ramachandra Puri, who was always looking for faults in the devotees and criticizing them, and as a result, he fell down. And he's not the only one. There's been many examples in history of devotees coming to bhakti, but developing a critical mentality, and taking it to the extreme where they start criticizing their own spiritual master, and hence they fall down. So it's very, very important to avoid such association. And if you can, if you can go a step further to actually assist that person to change their state of mind and their state of consciousness, so they can start making advancements, then that's better. That's the best thing to do. I hope that helps in some small way.
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Anything else, or shall we end there? Okay, we'll finish there. Kantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, jai jai Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च
पतितानां
पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो
पावनेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमो
नमो
नमः
नमः। अनंत
कोटि
कोटि
वैष्णव वृंद की
जय।
Jai.
जय स्तंभ प्रभु की जय।
जय
शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। गौर
जय
प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि
हरि
बोल।
बोल।
All bliss to the assembled
हरे
devotees.
कृष्णा
Yeah.